Hey, Coach Scott Fliegelman. We are so excited to have you on the Real Housewives of Pickleball podcast. How are you doing?
Hey Neely, hey Natasha, how are you guys?
Hey Scott, doing good.
We're great.
Sweating my little butt off here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, how
Same
are
as
things
Neely.
in Boulder?
Hot. Uh,
Hot.
yeah, we're indoors at Boulder Pickleball. We've got all the cooling devices going, so it's all
It's funny. I just met someone who moved here from Boulder. I'm in my other life when I'm not obsessed with pickleball. Do commercial real estate leasing, and she's wants to open up a little massage place. But interestingly, she massages with her feet. Have you ever heard of this, Scott? What's going on over there in Boulder? Like, I've never heard of that in my life.
that's really funny. We have a little space in our building here that we sub to a body worker, and it's like a platform a little bit off the ground. And whenever I walk by, he's walking on his clients. So
Okay.
I guess it's a thing.
She needs bars installed in the ceiling, so she's like
Yeah,
Wow.
seen
like
that.
hanging from the rafters. It's hilarious. I've never heard of it before, but to each their own, I guess.
Keep Boulder weird, spread the love, I
Yeah.
guess.
All right. Well, we have so many questions for you. So let's just dive right in. We're kind of going to start off with your personal journey and transition to pickleball. And I was reading up about you, Scott. I was doing a little Google internet stalking on you. And I saw that you have been involved in sports since you were a very young child. And I was looking at your LinkedIn, and I see that at every turn in your life, you've really been involved in sports in some way or another. You've gone from tennis to triathlons to pickleball. And I read that, interestingly, you said you sold two bikes and dropped triathlon races within a week after trying pickleball. And Tosh and I talk a lot about on this show about the magic of pickleball and how addictive it can be. And so I'm curious, what pulled you into each of those sports throughout your life, and what grabbed you so much about pickleball that you wanted to drop everything else and focus in on that?
Yeah, thanks for observing all that. When I look at LinkedIn or resume or talk about my career, I get a little bummed that like it adds up to almost 60 years. And I'm like, there's no way I'm freaking that old, but apparently I am. And I've made, my vocation and my avocation have aligned, most of my life. And whenever I stray from that, it doesn't work very well. So the upside is, I'm around my passion all the time. The downside is I'm around my passion all the time. So I don't really get a release like some people, they've got a 9 to 5, maybe commercial real estate, and then they get to release, and go play pickleball. Shockingly, a little disappointingly, I don't get to play a whole lot of pickleball. I'm just around it all the time. Whether it's spending time with my kids or we have a new puppy, that's like a really fun way for me to unwind because pickleball, not so much. But I'm not complaining. I've made those choices throughout my career. And it's varied from like right out of college, I worked in the life insurance business with my dad. And I loved working with my dad. I just didn't enjoy the insurance business, not surprisingly, given what I do now.
Mm.
And then I went the full other way as I moved to Vermont. And I taught skiing and snowboarding and tennis. And I was waiting for a knock on the door from the IRS. Like, dude, you made $48,000 last year selling insurance. It looks like your return says you made $9,000 this year. Like, what's up with that? But I didn't mind sleeping on couches and, my early 20s and chasing the dream as a wannabe tennis pro. It's been a circuitous journey and I'm happy where I am now.
Mm. You know who else sold insurance?
Oh,
You.
No, Megan Fudge.
that's
I
right. She
don't think I
did.
knew that.
She was in the
Yeah,
insurance business before
yeah.
she found pickleball and then quit. And so there's something about insurance going to pickleball. I don't know.
Something like that. And Megan and Ryler and me and Federico Stacksrud and Anna Bright, we all ended up at the same little tournament in Naples like 3 years ago. And they were just busting out. I was like the veteran.
Oh,
And it was such a big coming out party for all those guys. And it's been fun to follow their career
yeah, for sure.
and partner with them from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. So Scott, Uh, tell me, how do you think those experiences shaped who you are now? You know, there seems to be that you've uh somewhat reinvented yourself multiple times. How do you, what do you attribute all that to now, and how does that show up in your life?
I guess, I just said this the other day. I was at a Fourth of July gathering and people were asking about pickleball and it just every now and then I say the words, I don't dabble. I should do a hashtag, or something. Just I don't dabble. Like, and I guess Neely, that goes back to, what you were referencing earlier is 6.5 years ago or so when I found pickleball. I didn't realize that I was kind of burnt out on endurance sport, but I had done a 20-year stint, not surprisingly, immersed as an athlete and a coach and a business person. And along comes pickleball. And, I didn't dabble. It's like, well, I was signed up for the level 100 2 months from now. I don't really feel like training for that anymore. I'd rather be on the pickleball court. And off I went. And probably 6 weeks after that, I knocked on the door at Babolat, who's a 150-year-old tennis, brand that many of us are familiar with. Their North American headquarters are here in Boulder. Almost quite literally knocked on the door and said, "Hey, if you guys aren't already in pickleball, I'm your guy. Like, let's go." I've got a mixed rackets background. I speak rackets fluently. I'm full on into pickleball. I may have fibbed a little bit about being involved for more than 6 weeks at the time. But it was a good marriage, and I helped shepherd them into the space, and it helped make, business opportunities for me, which led to opening, an indoor facility with my wife, which is now an awesome and challenging and daunting 24/7 affair.
Were you ever like anxious about this? I mean, it sounds like, a wonderful adventure, but like at the time, were you ever anxious about fully transitioning your life and building an entire career around pickleball? I mean, what if it didn't make money? What if opening your new facility failed? Like, what were the struggles and challenges that you went as you attempted to build a life and career around pickleball?
Well, I'm no longer married to the woman that was my wife of 15 years when I launched into pickleball.
Mm.
And even though I'd been entrepreneurial, our whole marriage, she was just really uncomfortable with that. Not the only couple to struggle on the financial side of things. Money is a huge issue. And even though we were doing fine, she was just someone uncomfortable with the ebb and flow and jumping in with both feet and not dabbling. And I didn't have a whole huge safety net under me. And that, amongst other issues, led to one of the more successful divorces out there. We're really good co-parents. We've got kids 17 and 10, and we're friends. And I'm doing what I love, and she's pursuing more secure options in her world. So I'm grateful for pickleball, that I'm able to follow my passions and make a business out of it. But needed to make, to your point, I guess I did have some anxiety, but a lot of it had to do with home life, and it's not all roses now. I am remarried, but I'm with someone who's a little bit more comfortable, obviously a lot more comfortable with risk. But that comes with its own stresses as well, which we challenge ourselves with every day.
Yeah, we do talk, Tosh, we talk a lot about how like f family members are kind of like the unsung heroes in the pickleball community
Hmm.
because it is such an obsessive sport. And, me personally, my husband is one of the most supportive husbands out there, really. I mean, he just, when I need to play, when I need to train tournaments, he comes to tournaments with me. He's always cheering me on. And so it takes a lot, I think, to be a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or maybe even a close friend of somebody who's really into pickleball.
Yeah, and my wife isn't necessarily that person that supports, me in my tournaments and things like that. She plays pickleball, not nearly as much as I would like, but we come together on the business end, but it's not necessarily in her to support my efforts as much. And maybe it's because we're in it 24/7. If we, had other jobs, maybe it'd be a little bit more of a release for her. I coached endurance sport athletes for 10 years, and there's a term that you may have heard of called the Iron Widow. So these are Ironman athletes whose spouses, have coined the term, like they hardly ever see their spouse, because that spouse is in a lot of situations, a lot of circumstances, unhealthily committed and too selfishly committed to their release, and gets them away from family commitments and things. And part of my coaching is, hey, we need the support of our family to be able to do this. So we can't do this, just to get away from those obligations, or it's going to be a short-term success. Pickleball's not quite as bad, but we've all been on the court. Raise your hand if you've been on the court. You've been playing for 3 hours. Your spouse, your family is waiting for you. You're like, one more game. One more game. Come on, Neely, let's play one more game. You're like, all
My
right.
husband's going to kill me. Oh, no.
I know.
Okay, never mind. I'll do it. I'll do it.
We've all done it. We've all done it. Is it the end of the world? No. But yeah, like sometimes we have to say, I really got to go. I got other things important in my life. So yeah, been on all sides of that.
So Scott, I'm curious about all of your athletic endeavors, like from junior tennis to playing some pro, from skiing, endurance athlete, into pickleball. How has, or maybe this hasn't happened to you, but I'm just really curious, have you had like transitioning from all those different sports, has your identity shifted with that? Or have you always just been the same person and these are just sports that you play? Does that have any effect on you, or as you went through all the sports?
Probably had an effect on me. I don't know how easy it is to be introspective enough to answer the question about how has my identity changed. I kind of love my identity as a pickleball professional. I feel good about that. In endurance sport, like I was never a swimmer. So I kind of had to learn how to swim. And I love, especially in teaching pickleball, being able to identify with beginners. So when I first had to learn how to swim, they, chucked me in lane 1 at Masters Swim in Boulder, Colorado, with, I think the average age was about 80, or so in my lane. And how cool it was for them to adopt me. And I've been a high performance athlete. And, they're like, honey, just sit out a 50. We'll be back. We're just going to go down the other. And, you just rest. You look tired, and I was like, oh my God, I'm the beginner, and it was just a really cool experience, especially as somebody that teaches sports. And not to stray off the topic too much, but like, I have been the one here at Boulder Pickleball that handles most of our learn to play, clinics where people come in and they're beginners. And I think they're all expecting our greenest, rookiest instructor. But I learned something way back in Vermont, Sugar Bush Resort, teaching skiing all those years ago. Paul Brown was our ski school director, and he said, our competition gives the 17, 18-year-old rookie to the never ever skiers, and they get a so-so experience. We're going to give our very best instructors to the never evers, give them a fantastic experience, and then have them come back and become some of our best clients. And we're going to pay our instructors accordingly. And I just kind of took that to heart, and throughout my career, it's the beginners, the nervous newbies, who are the ones who need a fantastic first experience to be able to bring them into the sport. And then from a business standpoint, sure, they become great repeat customers, but you can't really fake that. You have to genuinely love working with beginners, and I do. And I remember clearly in the endurance sport business, some of my competitors would be like, I don't like coaching slow people. And I'm like, well, I do. Send them to me. It was good for business, and it was good for my soul, and it was good for these, aspiring athletes. So that's quite a little divergence from your question, but hopefully entertaining for your listeners.
No, but it sort of segues into something I was curious about, when we're talking about coaching philosophy and athlete development. I think someone's perspective on a sport often changes significantly when you become a coach. I coached tennis teams for a few years after I graduated. I played college tennis. And I think there is a mindset shift because you're no longer just focused on playing. You're now responsible for understanding, explaining, and elevating others. So I am curious, like, how has your perspective um, on pickleball changed since becoming a coach?
And as I referenced earlier, Neely, I kind of jumped in with both feet into pickleball when I started in all ways. So it was a little arrogant, I suppose, although we see this all the time now, to begin coaching as early as I did. But like you guys, I'd had a racket in my hand for a really long time and was able to, transfer that knowledge. But I was also seeking and finding enhanced knowledge as a developing pickleball player, and then trying to, transfer that to my students. But one of the differentiators that I have as a coach is I've been coaching racket sports and coaching other sports for 40 some odd years. And, we know in pickleball that sometimes, there are 5 O's that can hit a pickleball really well, but they just lack the coaching experience. And that, frequently results in a mediocre, coaching and learning experience.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. You could be a 5.0 plus player, but not really know how to coach and teach. So,
That's all
yeah,
too common.
yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And I feel like this conversation is going full circle because I think, yeah, what you touched on earlier, Scott, about uh you're wanting to just, it just comes from you, what you learned about always wanting to be around the newer players to give them the best experience. You could be the best athlete, yeah, and not be able to coach, but I think you really learn a lot while you're coaching, especially new people, because then you take yourself back as when we were all beginners at one point at anything that we were doing. And that's when you really learn all the nuances and just how other people, new players, new athletes approach, right, their game. So you get to really take on a lot more information there and build, I guess, your toolbox, right, to then be able to teach other people. But with all that, and your coaching, like I know you as a friend, as a player, as a coach, as a mentor, and I see you as a student of the game, like we mentioned earlier. Do you think that has to go hand in hand with coaching? I mean, I guess if you want to take your coaching to a certain level, because coaching in pickleball is so new along with the sport. Yeah, how do you view coaching and how all the different coaches out there are kind of taking their coaching as serious or not, or all the different directions that it's going in?
Well, I need to continue to be a student of the game as a player and as a coach if I'm going to deliver coaching to uh, a variety of recipients. When I work with you, that's quite a bit different than the 3-5 clinic that I'm going to teach in an hour. There's obviously commonality in there, but I have always subscribed to, better coaches need to be student centered. You can't have one canned presentation. I can't just teach the third shot. It just really depends on who the players are there. And amongst an 8-person clinic, there are going to be 4 or 5 visual learners, 2 or 3 auditory learners. All of them are going to be proprioceptive, kinesthetic. I need to try it, see it, hear it, try it. So you've got to be an experienced educator, an experienced coach to be able to deliver a lesson plan to a range of different learning styles. And we've got to continually get better and better at that. And that's what separates, I think, a more experienced educator, whether it's a pickleball coach or a college professor, being able to reach your students, give them their money's worth and provide value. I'll give you a little added benefit to all of that you may not have thought of. Natasha, I've shared with you, and you know this. that I play, once a month in the NPL, National Pickleball League. And I think I'm in the bottom 5% of players when it comes to practice time in between those events. And 2 years ago, I was in the bottom 1%. I barely practiced, but I'm on the court every day. I'm getting touches. And in pickleball, that's of value. But in order for me to transfer my knowledge, there's an intellectual exercise that I go through 4, 5, 6 hours a day of visualizing a shot and then figuring out the language and the visuals and the best ways to transfer that knowledge to a full range of students. And I'm in the camp of that's enhancing my pickleball skills. Just every day doing that, as opposed to going to my accounting office and then getting to play rec for 2 hours every evening. I've still been able to achieve pretty good success without getting the practice level that most of my competitors do. And that's, a unique way I get there, I think.
That's so fascinating to me because it's right. It's like your mind is constantly involved in the sport and the terminology and keywords that you're giving to your students. And so it almost like it sticks with you so much to the extent that when you get involved in play, it's like all of that stuff is there for you to access. It's funny because I've been developing a product for pickleball paddles over the last several months. And I found that the constant attention and focus that I had, that I was giving to this product, was like, it just that alone was helping me on the court because I was so involved in the mental side and the keywords. And so it's funny to hear you say that. It's like, you don't even really have to be practicing. It's just if you're involved in it in some way, that really can help translate on the court.
And I think, Natasha would hopefully agree that I'm, one of the more intellectual players on the court, that, strategic, tactical, partner well. I do the things that don't necessarily require me getting 20 hours a week of 5 plus practice, because it ain't going to happen. So I'm definitely, I embrace the chess-like elements of pickleball, and I think I'm getting daily practice at that, even through transferring potentially complex subjects to a 3-0. I have to run that through, my calculator and figure out the right simple words for a 3-0.
Yeah, and sorry, Tosh, let me jump in with one more thing and then I'll let you go. But speaking of chess, so I'm around like a 5.2 duper. I got it to 5.3 once, and I remember thinking like I should just quit now because I want to keep it at 5.3. I don't want it to go back down. It's always going up and down and blah blah blah. And there's always something I can work on technique wise, I suppose. But I feel that the next level for me is about really building my pickle IQ. And I mean, I obviously have this to some extent, Scott. I wouldn't be a 5.2 if I didn't have some level of that. But now I'm really starting to hone in on, okay, what was your intent behind that shot? Were you setting yourself or your partner up for the next shot? Was there a purpose behind that shot? What were you trying to do with that ball? Are my choices and selections in the moment making sense? And really starting to work through the point like it's a chess match. And so I'd love for you to talk more about this and how players of all levels, really, like how you can teach this part of the game to people of all levels, because eventually it becomes extremely important, extremely important.
Wait, you want me to talk about pickleball?
I guess to some extent, when you're newer to the game, you're just learning the shots. You're just learning how to master the shots. But as you grow, but certainly like a 3-5, they can learn techniques and they can learn skills, but they can also learn, why am I hitting that shot there? When to hit this shot? So how do you kind of work that into the newer players, and start teaching this sort of chess-like aspect of the game to players?
Yeah, I mean, you queued it up beautifully, and you used the words that I'm going to use on court all the time, including intentionality. What I think separates a 4-0 from a 3-5 or a 3-5 from a 3-0 is the higher rated player is more intentional in their shot selection. They see the game slightly slower motion than the more novice player, and they have intention. The shot outcome may not be what they wanted, but if they dumped it in the net and I said, Barb, what were you hoping would happen there? And I'll go ahead and put my words in Barb's mouth, but I was hoping to leverage the non-volley zone to enhance our court position and neutralize the rally. So, blah, blah, blah. But it went in the net. I'm like, great job, Barb. That's exactly the intention that I would have had for that shot. Let's talk about your mechanics on that shot. And here's the prescription for 500 balls on the ball machine. Here's what I want you to work on. But great job on the intentionality side of things. Along those lines, I'll also frequently say that we're better off hitting the ball under 5 miles an hour or over 30 miles an hour most of the time. It's that 17-mile-an-hour shot. It's not hard enough to impact them. It's not soft enough to land at their feet, and it's getting us into trouble. And frequently when I say, what was your intention or objective behind that 17-mile-an-hour shot, I get blank looks. And if it's a 2-5, that's fine.
Right.
Great. Why would you have intention? You're a 2-5. We're working on that. Let me suggest a couple of intentional options for that shot. But the 3-5 or the 4-0, if they hit it 17 miles an hour, it gets crushed and they give me a blank look when I ask for their intention. Then it's not a mechanical deficiency there. We've got to get back to court positioning, partner communication, movement, shot selection, all of the low-hanging fruit, all of the high-level stuff that we need to get to before we worry about, the mechanics of topspin or underspin production.
Yeah, got it.
And so still talking about coaching, philosophy, athlete development, I'm curious about what your experience as a coach, what do you see as a good player? The difference between a good player and a truly great player? Are there certain intangibles that you look for in an athlete? And also, how does that also translate when you're looking for a partner?
Well, you stumbled right on to probably intentionally. What I think is the key to that answer is primarily this sport is doubles. It's a really different answer for tennis, which is primarily at the higher levels, a singles game. So, what separates a good player from a great player? Well, that great player, better have a diverse enough tool set to be able to complement their partner's tool set. And then the humility, to be able to discuss before, during, and after, what is our best rally construction in order to defeat those guys. Boy, those guys really, they're good traditional drop and dink players. And if we get into a drawn out kitchen battle with those guys, we're going to lose. So let's embrace our inner banger today. And, if we can have 5 shots or less, we're probably going to win. If it's 5 shots or more, they're probably going to win. And then my partner goes, well, I didn't play college tennis, like you did. I'm like, well, here's your chance. We're gonna drive some thirds. We may even drive some fifths because they're just better at the kitchen than us. And I'm just making up this example. More often, it's the other way around. It's like, wow, those guys really want to play power pickleball. I think if we can get it to bounce twice, we're going to win the rally. If we can lull them into a kitchen exchange, we're going to win the rally. So that's skill development, toolbox expansion, partner communication, humility. These are all things that you've got to be able to do, especially for you guys at the 5-0 plus level. You're really good at pickleball, but how good of a partner can you be? How embracing of a partner? How well can you partner? I offer this example all the time. Scott Moore, legend of the game, amazing pickleball player, won more senior pro medals than anybody else. Thorny partner, tricky to play with. 2 years ago, he and I got paired up at NPL on Pod 1. We went 14-3. So it wasn't so much my ability to hit a pickleball that got us there. It was like, I've got a really skilled partner who's tricky to play with. My job is to make him comfortable. He's 6'3", hits the crap out of the ball. It's like, you want the left side, man? It's all you. I'm going to embrace my inner right side player, and I'm going to set you up for success, and I'm going to hand you the microphone for the interview afterward, and I'm just going to ride that all the way to a 14-3 record, which not everybody can do.
Mhm.
So I think that's the key to your answer.
I love that. I do agree that, to be a competitor, probably in all sports, but especially in this sport, to be a true competitor, you have to be a problem solver. And I'm thinking back to a recent finals match in an open draw where we were playing against, to your point, two really hard hitters. And they loved pace and hitting hard, and we were not going to beat them that way. And every time I forgot that one piece of advice in my brain, and I got involved in like trying to hit hard through them, it was almost always we would lose the point. And so I remember turning to my partner, she's like, we're not going to do it that way. We've got to get to the kitchen and be soft and wait for our shots. And that's how we won. If I finally disciplined myself to stop hitting that way and to get up to the kitchen line with soft thirds and beat them at the kitchen. And so to your point, yeah, I mean, it's about, I agree, when you're partnering up in pickleball, it's about problem solving together.
And I would add to that, Neely, that I've had recent experience, and I'm sure you guys have had as well. Problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. Oh shit, they're just better than us.
Yeah.
Wow, we can try everything we've got. And you know what? We're probably going to come in second.
Yeah.
And so what? I've had to say to myself, wow, I can't get involved here. They're picking on my partner, and good for them. They're really good at it, and we're probably going to lose. What kind of a partner do I need to be as, we go down in defeat?
Right.
Here, I can be the roll my eyes and shrug my shoulders and look at the crowd and go, it ain't my fault. I could be that partner.
Right.
But boy, that's not going to get me very far in the sport.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's like, I'm a competitive guy. I want to win. But sometimes you got to be like, well, we're down 9-2 here in game 3. We're probably going to lose. But, let's be a good person, be a good partner, and live to fight another day.
Right. There are
And be
some
realistic.
realities in the game. Yeah, right. That, to your point, yes, Tosh. There are some realities that you can't avoid.
Jill Braverman and I had a really fun tournament together in split age at the U.S. Open. We had a couple of great wins, which was super fun. And then we ran up against Patrick Kalka and Lee Whitwell. And, I don't know if you've seen PK play, but Jill said to me, he's either a 7-0 or a 4-5. Well, we got the 7-0 version, and I have never I've played against the best, and I've just never been blown off the court like that before in doubles.
Yeah.
We had no answer, to that. And sometimes that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And, you got to be a good partner at that point and be a good opponent.
I'm learning how to be in the moment with that and to swallow that, to be in reality with what's really happening instead of trying to keep fighting against. That's where I find myself. Yeah, right now.
Yeah, and sometimes you need a coach. In NPL this year, I had suggested to the competition committee, let's stop banging our heads against the wall to delineate between cheering and coaching and making it difficult on the refs. And I suggested, and it passed unanimously, that coaching is allowed. At that event. And sometimes it's nice just to have an outside party, one of your respected teammates just to say, hey, Natasha, take a couple deep breaths. They are on a roll and they're not going to keep that up. Just keep doing what you're doing. They'll cool off. You guys will be fine. So I think it's that kind of sport.
Scott, I'm curious, who do you go to when you need coaching? Because, it's like the therapist, right, who realizes they need their own therapist to talk to, even though they're an expert on themselves, they're an expert in the field, but they're not seeing their own blind spots. So do you have somebody that you go to? I mean, I know you're so busy coaching all the time, but do you have someone you go to point out your blind spots and, maybe some of your weaknesses, and somebody to point that stuff out to you?
Yes, and I haven't seen him in a year and a half. Travis Rude in the Northwest, works with a bunch of top pros out of Vancouver, Washington, and he's a great resource. I call him, a coach for myself, and I just haven't had the time to go see him. We haven't been on court enough together. So a step or two down from that, Molly Carter, my mixed partner, who I play more of a senior role in our partnering because I'm older, I've been playing longer, and I help bring her into the sport. But she knows my game as well as anybody, and it's really helpful. I've said to Molly, it's like, can you just say something funny? Can you make me laugh? Like
Yeah,
when
she
we're
can do
on the
that.
court, yeah, when we're dancing or more she's dancing and I'm like smiling or whatever, that's when we play well. So sometimes your partner, needs to be your coach if, you can't get your actual coach on hand.
Yeah, got it.
So onto some technique and game improvement. So I came from tennis, and I think I don't know if you consider this technical adjustment, but it took me a really long time to dial down because I was always a singles player in tennis, not really so much doubles. And then switching to doubles and pickleball, I always had to patience. I'm still working the patience. Just I get too ahead of myself and I just want to rip it. What's one technical adjustment that you have seen in students that you notice that might unlock progress for most players? Is there one thing that sticks out?
Well, first thing I'm thinking of as you're describing that, and I'm sure there are listeners that are in the same boat, is I don't see it as my job to de-tennis your pickleball game. And it's a great on ramp to pickleball, and I continue to try to harness all of those skills and inclinations.
Mhm.
To that, you mentioned the singles, versus doubles, and I think they're two really really different games, and we've got to think about the kind of the maturation of the equipment at the same time.
Mm.
And a lot of listeners, maybe you guys as well, like if you're watching pickleball on the weekends, these days, PPA, MLP, whatever it might be, they're not showing a whole lot of patience out there. Now, the equipment is starting to meet their athleticism.
Mm.
And, it's not even just third shot drive, fifth shot drop anymore. They're starting to find success in the midcourt with the equipment and their D1 tennis skills. And they're driving fifths and sevenths. And then I get 3-5s on the court on Monday, and they're confused, about what to do. But it's the same thing in other major sports. What we watch on TV on the weekend is not necessarily what we should be doing in beer league football or softball, the next day. So we've just got so many influences now that when I started playing the game, not as much was there. So we do need a sounding board and a coach to try to take your background, the current influences, what we see on TV, and try to help guide you forward.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, like when I think about unlocking progress in the sport, like for me personally, I feel like there's no better feeling, Scott and Tosh, I don't know, maybe you agree. Um, it feels like Christmas Day to me when I feel like I have unlocked, because sometimes you get to the point where you sort of feel stale in the game, you feel like you've sort of plateaued a little. And then along comes a new skill or a new way of seeing the court. And when that clicks for you, it's like Christmas Day, and I just want to get out there and play every day and practice it every day. And one thing that I feel has recently unlocked for me as a player is more awareness of my grips. I've always shifted my grip a little, but I've never really thought about it in the way that recently I've been thinking about it. So I typically would hold Eastern, and it was pointed out to me that maybe when I start to go for backhands, I shift a little to continental because I don't have a roll backhand. I have a slice backhand at the line. And I wasn't really shifting back to Eastern. And it was pointed out to me that that could be hindering my offensive play and hitting rolls. And now I've started experimenting with almost holding the grip in a semi-Western for third shot drops, for rolls at the line, for more offensive play at the line, and then shifting to Eastern when I need to. And then, but having an awareness, always an awareness of shifting back to semi-Western when I want to do rolls. And that has like unlocked so much potential for me in the game that I feel like a kid in the candy store lately. Are there like certain, can you talk about maybe stories from former or current students where there was like one skill or something that unlocked for them that made it like really exciting for them?
We're such dorks, aren't we? I love this.
Yeah.
The listeners aren't seeing our faces, but we're just kind of smiling, and we could talk about this stuff all day.
I know.
It does make me think of 6 years ago watching some high-level pickleball on YouTube. It was like, I think they were using a stick and a rock. It was like so long ago. And I messaged Rosti Sobek, and I was like, dude, what grip are you using for your forehand? Like, I was so new, and I was like, continental, but like, you're getting a lot of topspin on that. And to this day, I've not heard back from Rosti on that. So I give him shit when I see him on that. But yeah, I mean, the grip thing is huge. Like, look at Mari Humberg as a great example. Like, one of the best, sickest backhand roll volleys out there.
Crazy.
You think she's not rolling that hand over to the backhand side just a little bit from Eastern forehand? Of course she is.
Right.
You can't roll a backhand volley like that with an Eastern or semi-Western forehand grip.
No.
So she's making micro adjustments in order to do that. It is the reason, just quick sales pitch for the Hesicor grip. If you haven't tried it, like, there's all these little touch points and nooks and crannies for your fingers. It helps me with little mini grip adjustments. Sales pitch over. Maybe give that a try, Neely. It's helpful. If you're making micro adjustments, it's kind of helpful for that.
Okay.
Light bulb that's gone off recently for all of my players, following a great 3-hour camp that we did with Jill Braverman and myself a few weeks ago, is we did an exhibition. Somebody asked some questions, and Jill talked about how, as the serving team, we need to be moving together toward the net a little bit better. And I was like, okay, I've just spent the last year trying to get our players here at Boulder Pickleball to better complement their partner's awesome third shots and go. Stop waiting for your partner. Let's honor their lovely third by blitzing, by getting in the face of our opponents at the net. Your partner will catch up. And so I'm looking at the faces of all my students, and they're like, you've been telling us not to wait for our partner. Now, Jill Braverman, you've been hyping her up, and it required humility on my part as the host coach to present our VIP guest coach and be willing to let her say whatever she's going to say and not have to, curate that perfectly so she wouldn't, hurt my feelings. Turns out, upon a little further discussion, that we stumbled onto this concept of drive to survive. So follow me here. Is we need to assess the quality of the return of serve before we decide to start our march forward. There are impactful enough returns that are super deep, super pacey, super spinny, that it just ain't time for us to go forward. So let's hit a medium pace line drive and both of us stay back until we see a ball that looks a little bit more appetizing for us to begin our advance forward. And if that ball comes in my direction, then Jill will not wait for me. She'll go.
Yeah.
This came out of the US Open when we were playing together. And she said, if they return to my forehand, I want you to wait for me. She wasn't feeling as good on her forehand. She got this thick two-handed backhand drive that we wanted her to take for thirds, but when they found her forehand, so she hit a forehand. I took 2 steps in front of the baseline. They hit it at my feet and they won the rally. And Jill said, I said, wait for me. I was like, I did. She's like, no, I mean back here. Like, I mean, like behind the baseline.
Not even
like,
a step. Yeah. Okay.
I know. she's like, you're in the death zone. You're in that spot where if I don't hit a quality third shot, they can find your feet. But if you're behind the baseline and they find your feet, it's out. So this was a really healthy conversation for Jill and I to play out in front of 20 students and then learn the concept of drive to survive, drive and chill. It ain't time to go forward yet. Let's get a less impactful fourth ball or sixth ball from them. Now we'll begin our advancing from there. And it's been super illuminating the last month or two here at Boulder Pickleball.
Huh.
That's some high level communication. I
Isn't
love
it?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's interesting. I mean, because there is so many different pieces of advice out there, and one person may agree with Jill, and another person may not. You know, I've had people say like, "Why are you standing back here with me when I'm hitting the third?" I'm like, "Well, I need to trust my partner. If you don't trust your partner, then forget it. If you trust your partner is going to most likely always hit, you know, a decent third." I mean, I see Jill bombing into the net half the time. They're not even waiting for their partner to hit the return. They're just boom up to the line. But now I'm going to have to watch the points more quickly because now I'm going to start looking at the return of serve to see if she's really bombing in after every point, like in every point, or if sometimes she's holding back based on the depth of the return of serve. I'm going to watch that more closely.
Yeah, watch it more closely. I think you're ready to watch that. If Jill's partner is Megan Fudge, what is an impactful return of serve at Megan Fudge is different than a 4-0 standing next to Jill Braverman. So if they're returning to Megan Fudge, Jill's like, well, Megan's got that. I'm just going to go.
Right.
But if it's super deep or to a wing that Megan's not feeling as good, either backhand or forehand, Jill may chill.
Yeah.
Until, you know, they get a ball that she's like, oh, well, Megan's got that.
Right.
And vice versa, Megan's doing the same thing. She's like, well, that ball's not going to bother Jill that came to her backhand. She always hits great two-handed backhand drips. So I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going. And other times it may go to Jill's forehand and Megan say, I'm going to stay behind that baseline so I don't expose my feet, you know, for them to get the ball at my feet. And that, to Natasha's point, is some pretty high level shit. But there are 4-0s out there right now that are going, yeah, I got that. I interpret what you're saying. I'm going to do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point.
Great point. Delia, I'm going to move up ahead a little bit to talk about some mindset, competitive competition, and longevity with Scott. So I was really curious. We talk a lot about pickleball and strategy and the mental side of the game, but what about like recovery and nutrition? And can you share any point in time that you had to deal with any burnout and what you kind of did through that to get you back on the horse?
Yeah, I'm struck by just a quick side story. At the US Open this year, I helped produce, I was doing some center court broadcasting and helped produce an event with Andre Agassi and Annalie Waters as well, a press conference. And I've known Andre a little for 40 some years when he was a punk teenager. And I'm just so struck by how humble and funny and gracious he is now. And there was a question about, you know, playing high level pickleball, Andre. And, you know, he said, if I had the time, you know, and the space to be able to train and recover and eat and sleep and family and all of that, the way that he did when he was 19, you know, he would love to be able to be the highest level pickleball player that he could be. But that's just not where he is, you know, in life right now. And he chooses to do other things, you know, in life. And I choose to do other things as well. So it's one of the reasons why I don't play singles, you know, as much anymore, is I can get away with it, but I can't go win 6 3-setters on a Saturday. You know, like I'm not physically, or really, I'm going to go ahead and surprise you a little bit. I'm not sure I have the emotional tank to be able to battle it out for 12 hours to win a singles title these days. And I'm not going to sign up for singles to go 2-2 or 0-2. You know, like that, it's not necessary.
Sometimes I don't feel like I have the emotional tank to enter two draws, like mixed and gender, you
Yeah,
know? So to add singles onto that, I
yeah.
completely understand that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's being realistic. Something we talked to you said, earlier about I'm just being realistic with I've got two kids in school. I work 24/7 with my wife. We've got a really important business. I'm a captain and GM for our NPL team, and I'm spread too thin by choice. And I'm in my mid-50s. I'm still earning money. I'm not retired. That I just don't have the ability to commit prehab, rehab, all of that to be the very best pickleball player I can be right now. And I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of a cop out, there, but I do think it's realistic. I'm super bummed. I'm supposed to be in Israel right now, competing for the U.S. in the every 4 years Maccabiah Games, the Jewish Olympics, and it's the first year that pickleball was going to be included.
Mm,
And it's not surprisingly postponed until next summer. That was a motivator for me
Yeah.
to train, to be, physically ready to go in the heat for that. Uh, Side benefit, I get to be a little fitter for the NPL season. But, I think putting a big, scary goal on your calendar is a really good motivator
yeah.
for people. Like, I just need to, and then maybe that's the endurance sport athlete in me. Let's throw a marathon on the calendar 4 months from now. That'll get my ass out the door, to train, so relevance in pickleball for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me just throw that because I actually really interested to hear your thoughts on this question. And it sort of ties into this category of competition and mindset. And do you encourage your players to watch match film and pro matches, film of themselves or pro matches? And if so, what should they look for? Because I'm a big believer in watching my own film, as painful as that can be sometimes. Because you're out there and you're like, I'm a fucking rock star, like, I'm so good. I did it. And then you watch the film and you're like, oh God, I look terrible. I look so old. I'm like bending from my back and not my knees. And it takes your ego down a peg, but you do learn a lot. So like watching yourself on film, and then when you watch pro matches, I sort of see it as like the monkey see monkey do theory, where you're like watching and then it somehow kind of like drifts into your subconscious and you start doing some of the things that they're doing. But like when you watch a pro match, how do you recommend you watch the pro match? Do you watch one player at a time? Do you watch one shot at a time? Because otherwise we're just watching and it's back and forth, back, 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 and you're not really soaking any kind of learning in. You're just watching. So I'm curious what you recommend about both of those topics.
Yeah, let me see if I can answer your primary question first, and then see where it goes from there. I mean, awesome question. I love video, and you asked the question beautifully, Neely. How should our listener, how should our students watch? You can watch for entertainment, and if you watch for entertainment, watch the ball. Watch the ball go back and forth and be entertained. But for instruction, for self-improvement, watching the ball is not a great way to go. I find as a coach and as a player, there are better ways to use your video watching time. So whether it's two different things, but whether you're watching yourself, or you're watching your game, or you're watching pro pickleball, one of my favorite things to do is pick a player. It could be to watch yourself, and whether, if it's on the screen, let the ball go to the other side and listen for the ball on the other side so that you can keep up with the chronology of the rally. At our level, when the ball is being struck by the other guys, we should be split stepping. Both my partner and I must be split stepping, whether we're in the part of the court we want to be in or not. I want to hear a slight tweak of the sneaks at the same time that the ball is on the paddle. So let's say you're a 3-5-4-0 and your coach is, hammering you on split step improvement. What a great way, to do that. Watch yourself and you're like, wow, my split step timing either is non-existent or it sucks. All right, now I'm going to watch Anna Bright. Whew, wow. Okay. Every time the ball's on the opponent's paddle, she and her partner have a quick touch, loading of the springs, gather intel, off they go, and they react from there. So watching the ball is a great way for instruction. And then watching your opponents. Don't follow the ball.
Yeah.
Let's say you're scouting. Watch your opponents or watch an ideal player that you want to learn from. Just watch them on the other side. Don't follow the ball. And this holds true for live pickleball as well. You can watch live without watching the ball. Just pick your favorite player and watch them. I think that's the number one thing that people can do if you want to watch for instruction, not just entertainment.
Yeah, I love that advice. Great advice for players of all levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I always
Hope
find
so.
myself watching matches. Okay, so let's do one more question. Scott, I know you're
Couple more.
shorter in time and you got to get moving. So,
Oh, I had one other thing. If I could go back,
oh
and
yeah,
we'll test Neely's editing skills here just
yeah.
a little bit. Yeah, Neely mentions, watching yourself on video. Man, I thought I was a rock star, and I didn't look quite as good as I thought. You know what? Like, we've all been there, but nobody else cares. It's like when you have a shitty day on the court, nobody gets in the car and drives home and says, "Wow, Neely really sucked today." Like, they don't care. Like, they're much more focused on themselves. So, like, I say this because, let's say, Neely, I said, when you play later today or tomorrow, I'd really suggest that you focus on this, that, or the other thing. You can maybe play at the 4-9 level, not your regular 5-3 level, and nobody's going to care.
Right.
But you're a student of the game, you're working on improving, and you needed that 2 hours of intense, deliberate focus on one area. Even if you lost a couple of games and didn't play as well as you thought, nobody else cares. And nobody else cares what we look like.
Yep. Yeah.
Not for you, but for all the listeners who are worried about that.
I like that. I'm going to remember that
Okay.
next time I watch myself and want to kill myself. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
That resonates, Neely. It resonates. So we really wanted to talk about the Boulder Pickleball Club. And I have to say that I got a glimpse of it. I haven't been to your club. I've watched you online from when you opened up. Was it a year ago or just over a year ago?
We're open 2.5 years now.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
So at NPL, that event in Denver, I felt like was the most attended by the hosts. Like, there were so many of your peeps there. It really amazed me because every time we were playing against you in the morning on Saturday, and every time my partner and I would win a point, I'd be like so psyched. It'd be like crickets. And then we lose a point. Everyone's like roaring and cheering. And I'm just like, bye. So you guys had so much just great support there. And I'm sure they all came. I was thinking that because I didn't even know, I didn't get to talk to you about this, that they came from your Boulder Pickleball Club. So I want you to tell me more about your club, how it's going. Yeah, is it as great as you thought it would be? Is it even better? Like, all the things. Just really curious.
Unplanned divergence to vulnerability moments here. I mentioned my emotional tank. It was pretty empty. Well, it kept going up and then back down last weekend. So they opened a gorgeous new facility 15 minutes from my club that my wife and I own and are several $100,000 invested in. And they opened like a $20 million facility just down the road. And, long story short, the NPL hosted their event there. And upside, lots of our members came and cheered, and it was amazing. But, we're business people, and that's a challenge, for us right now. So it was difficult to be there. Personally, it was even more difficult to see some of our people playing pickleball there. And like, are we losing members? So I needed to focus on my pickleball play, and it was hard. It was just a really emotionally draining, weekend. But I agree with you. It was really awesome. And, I invited all of our people to go to our competitor to watch great pickleball and to cheer. And it was amazing. And this has been an awesome week of energy back at Boulder Pickleball because they saw, really great 50 plus age, pickleball and came back and were fired up to play. And lo and behold, some of the people that I saw there playing last weekend are back here, happy to be here. Our facility is like what my wife likes to say is more Rocky style. Like it's a little more edgy, a little more CrossFit, a little less LA Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And when you step through the nets onto the courts, it's a world-class playing experience. But outside of that, it's a little rough around the edges. We don't have saunas and hot tubs, and the walls above 8 feet are not painted. But we're only 5 courts, thankfully. If I had a dozen courts to fill, I'd be a little bit more concerned.
Right.
But it's helped kind of fine tune our ethos in the community as we are a performance center. And you're welcome here at the 2.5 to 5.5 level. We subscribe to the philosophy that better pickleball is more fun. So we have programs and lots of activities and things for people to get better at pickleball. We're not going to look down our noses at anybody who doesn't choose to get better. But we're not an eat and drink and yuck it up and play pickleball facility. We're a performance center.
Yeah.
And that's our differentiator in the marketplace. And that's become even more clear in the last month.
So, okay, the big question before I pass it on to Natasha to do our little pickle and pass quiz that we do, pickle or pass quiz that we do with all our guests is, when are you coming to the Massachusetts area to coach me and Natasha?
I'll be there in 4 hours.
Yes.
Done.
Let's get a date. Let's do it.
Yeah, you gotta come up here.
Yeah.
There's so many
I've got
clubs.
some New England in my blood. I was in Vermont for 6 years, so I'd like to get back up there, but it's been a
Right.
while.
Let's do it. There's so many new clubs opening up here, and I'm sure they'd love to host you.
Okay, let's make that happen.
Yeah. All right, Tasha,
Okay.
take it away.
Well, I thank you for sharing that about Boulder Pickleball. I didn't realize all of that. And not to put a silver lining on it, but I can say that, like you mentioned, the differentiator definitely is not only, I would say, the style of club that you are, but I haven't gotten to meet your wife so much, but I know that she's really involved in your club, and I know you a lot more. And yeah, there's no replicating you. So
cool.
I'm sure, yeah, a lot of people are drawn to the club because of you and your wife.
And there's no replicating Carrie, my wife. She is a
Yeah.
programming wizard. She didn't know how
Yes.
to spell pickleball or court reserve
Or
3 years ago.
Fliegelman.
Or Fliegelman. Yeah, right. She's now fluent in all of those and the best in Colorado.
And I will say, clubs are opening up, but if they don't have good pros, good coaches who are, at the helm, like for me, it's certainly at my level, it's not worth it joining. I wouldn't want to join, so I mean, I think for any level really, to have somebody who's so knowledgeable and so passionate at the head of a club is truly important. And so, if I were living in that area, I'd want to be with Coach Scott.
Yeah. Sets the
Thank
leadership
you.
of any company. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we have a great staff of coaches here as well. Because, not everybody, a lot of people enjoy what I offer, but, we have other pros that have a different way about them, including, there are women that prefer a woman coach. And there's nothing I can do about that other than, make sure that we have 3 or 4 coaches on staff who are qualified and certified women coaches who, they may share similar philosophies and methodologies, but are just able to connect better with some of the women students than I can.
And that's what's so great about you, Scott. Yeah. Love everything. I'm always in your praises, telling everyone about you.
Right back at you.
Okay, so on to our last, because I know you have to run. Pickle and pass. So we normally just do this at the end of every conversation we have with our guests. And it's just, I basically give you 2 options and you choose one. So no thinking, just answering. Okay, you ready?
So I'm just pickle or pass.
Dink or drive?
Drive.
Indoor or outdoor pickleball?
Indoor.
Indoor. Paddle tap or fist pump?
Paddle tap.
Okay, and then with fist pump, do you call it fist pump or fist bump?
Bump.
Oh, okay. Serve deep or short and spinny low?
Serve deep.
I knew that one. Okay, speed up or reset?
Speed up.
Silent assassin or trash talker?
Say that one again.
Silent assassin?
Silent assassin.
Ooh,
Silent assassin.
okay. Not too many trash talkers here. Okay. Early bird match or under the lights?
Early bird match.
Mixed doubles or gender doubles?
Mixed doubles.
Win ugly or lose beautifully?
Win ugly.
Yeah.
Play by feel or stick to the strategy?
Both.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome.
I love
Awesome.
I love that when we interviewed Megan, she was a trash talker when she had that option between silent assassin and trash talker. She said,
Although I don't know, Riley came on and said that she's the other.
well, she
Right?
said when she's playing rec, especially with the guys, she loves to trash talk. So
Yeah. But I think at her level, she's more silent assassin, like when she's playing for real.
Yeah, that's what I said.
She's really in it. We played split age at nationals a couple of years ago, together, and not a lot of trash talk. No, I
No.
mean she's evolved, a lot in her game. She was still punching underspin volleys back then, like she was a tennis player. But
Yeah,
look at her now. Look at her
Yeah.
go.
Crazy.
incredible. Neely, I told you, Neely and I got to be on the court with her.
Yes,
It was
what a treat.
incredible.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
She's
super
pretty,
high level communicator, just so much energy.
yeah, like major
And her
girl crush
movement
over here.
was just second to none. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'll just tell you that, like, so this was 3.5 years ago that we played against each other, and she was, I'm gonna say not even a 5-0.
Mm.
She was a nice, very good tennis player,
Mm.
but just all the tennis habits were still there. And I would say she was a 4-9, and I think she would agree with me, at that tournament. And then a week later, she was a 5-1, and then a week later, she was a 5-3. But she was there. She was converting her tennis, but it was not there yet.
Yeah.
She works hard.
Yep.
Look at
Sure
her go.
does.
So, in taking us out, Scott, anything you want to share with the listeners, how they can reach you, how they can reach out to you, and how to learn more about you?
Sure. Yeah. Scott Fliegelman Pickleball on Instagram, Boulder Pickleball on Instagram, Scott at boulderpickleball.net. If you want to email me, would be great. And, hopefully you can come check out an NPL event. We can meet in person. I don't play too many other tournaments these days, but US Open, maybe Nationals or NPL, come say hi.
And Scott has a great podcast on YouTube with John Q.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked to John this morning. He has been injured, which is why we're a couple of months out on our last episode.
Okay.
It's called The Breakthrough with John Q. And we were working on him breaking through 4-5, and then he broke his foot. And that was not the plan.
Yeah.
So he's coming back, although we're going to do a show next week that he's kind of calling our control paddles dead.
Okay.
And I'm firmly in the camp of the control paddle. So
Yeah.
keep an eye out for that.
I'll tune into that one for sure.
Yeah. EULA versus carbon. All right.
And even within the carbon line, I'm a carbon player, but the range of power and control paddles there, and I'm still a control paddle guy.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Scott. This has been awesome. I've loved and enjoyed learning more about you and everything that you have to share. Just always sharing everything about Scott Fliegelman to all my friends, all my pickle friends.
Yeah.
So glad they can hear from you directly here.
Thank you, Scott. This has been a pleasure.
Great to meet you, Neely. Thank you, Natasha, and congrats from Natasha on having a great season so far. And hope to see you guys in the finals of the NPL in October.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.